Hey, night owls, parchment scroll scrollers, and phone-in-bed doom swipers. Before you burrow beneath the blankets, give that like button a gentle tap, subscribe if cozy history rants are your lullaby of choice, and whisper in the comments where you're listening from and what the clock says right now. I love seeing our little sleepy map light up around the world. Now dim your lamp, let a low fan hum like distant ocean waves, and slide with me into a shadowy corridor of cures, herbal, hateful, and hilariously misguided, that people once trusted to wrestle insomnia into submission. Close your eyes. Smell wood smoke clinging to rough homespun. Hear a cockeyed bell tolling 9 through the fog. It's late, and you've worked since sunrise, cutting thatch or copying psalms. Your fingers sting, your mind aches, and yet you lie on a straw mattress wired with anxious thoughts. Tonight, the stars don't soothe, they prick. In a world without melatonin gummies, white noise apps, or bored TikTok scrolling, sleeplessness felt like a spiritual siege. People called it night wandering or demon sitting. And no matter the century or continent, they'd try almost anything, yes, even pickled garden slugs, to grab a few hours of rest before dawn's rooster screamed again. So let's step quietly through ages of bizarre bedtime fixes, placing you in the room with each concoction. Feel the weight of superstition on your chest. Smell the curdled milk poultice inching toward your hairline, and taste the metallic tang of medieval sleeping drafts sliding reluctantly down your throat. These aren't heroic breakthroughs. They're weird, sometimes deadly curiosities that tell us how desperate humans get when minutes feel like months at 3 in the morning. Picture yourself in ancient Mesopotamia, 2000 BCE. The oil lamp flickers on mud brick walls etched with cuneiform charms. You've tossed since dusk, so the household priest scribes a tablet recipe. Grind mandrake root, dog's hair, and beer foam into a paste. Then smear it across your temples while chanting, "May the evil hand release me." You obey. The smell is rancid, the dog hair keeps tickling your eyebrow, but the chanting rhythm, soft, repetitive, dulls the whir of panic in your skull. Is it the potion or the placebo of ritual? You don't care? Your eyelids finally sag like wet clay. Fast forward to classical Greece. Insomnia is now an imbalance of humors. Too much choleric fire in the blood, says Hippocrates. Doctors advise roasted lettuce wine because lettuce cools the body. Imagine nibbling wilted leaves sautéed in vinegar, then slugging a clay cup of weak retsina steeped with poppy seeds. The warmth slides down, and in the torchlight you feel the faint narcotic throb of opium lacing the seeds. Your pulse slows, you drift. Congratulations, you just microdosed yourself unconscious. Then Rome arrives, equal parts engineering genius and bonkers bedside tables. Wealthy insomniacs order servants to place raw amethyst under pillows. Pliny the Elder swears the purple stone drives away drunkenness and nightly fear. Meanwhile, poorer folk tie dried mouse skins around their necks. Yes, mouse skins. Supposedly, the little rodent's nocturnal energy transfers to you in reverse, tricking the body into restful stillness. Does it work? Probably not. But the soft, papery hide brushing your collarbone would remind you every second that, hey, at least you tried. Hear cathedral bells now. We're in a damp 12th century cottage on the edge of Normandy. You're exhausted from hauling peat, but can't shut off your mind. Visions of tax collectors and bad harvests twirl behind your eyes. Your grandmother creaks open the door, carrying a steaming bowl. Inside, milk, honey, pulverized valerian root, and, wait, powdered wormwood. She tells you to gulp before it cools. Valerian calms nerves. Wormwood tastes like grassy poison, but drives out restless spirits. You gag, swallow, and think you might vomit. 10 minutes later, your tongue tingles, your limbs heavy, and the thatched roof's shadows melt into a single black pillow. Perhaps the mix sedated you, or perhaps sheer digestive trauma knocked you flat. Either way, the sun won't see you stirring soon. In Islamic Spain, scholars rummage through Greek medical texts looking for gentler paths. They prescribe dua al-layl, specific Quranic verses whispered thrice into camphor-scented water, then sipped. Spiritual lullaby meets mild anesthetic. Camphor cools the skin, the verses cool the soul. Some nights it's enough. Other nights, apothecaries break out the Syrian syrup, equal parts opium, saffron, and musk sugar stirred into wine. Imagine the perfume: earthy poppy, floral saffron, animalistic musk, hitting your nostrils as you tip back the cup. Your dreams will be bright, maybe prophetic, maybe terrifying, but at least they'll be dreams instead of clock-watching hell. Shift again. Ming-era China. Your straw pillow is swapped for a porcelain one filled with cool water, believed to drain excess yang heat from an overactive mind. Still jittery? The herbalist hands you roasted silkworm chrysalis dust to brew with chrysanthemum tea. The idea? Mimic nature sleep, the cocoon's stillness inside your body. Sip the earthy broth. Picture yourself wrapped tight as gossamer threads. Outside, crickets sing, lanterns bob. Inside, your brain finally cocoons. By the late Middle Ages in Europe, sleeplessness slides from humoral imbalance to potential witchcraft. You, yes you, our unlucky traveler, can't nod off, so townsfolk whisper maybe a maleficent neighbor curses you. The parish priest recommends a holy candle molded in the shape of your body. They light it near your bed. As wax melts, so should your wakefulness. Sweet concept, until dripping wax ignites straw bedding and your insomnia cure becomes a house fire. Records show more than one charred roof thanks to holy effigies gone wrong. Travel north to a Viking longhouse where nights stretch eternally in winter. Warriors who can't sleep blame Draugr, the undead, prowling outside. To ward them off, you carve runes into a chunk of soapstone, heat it red hot, then drop it in a horn of ale. Steam hisses, carrying runic power skyward. You inhale the barley vapor, drain the horn. Half placebo, half scorching sauna for your esophagus. Sleep ambushes you mid-belch. Renaissance Italy adds elegance and arsenic. Court physicians craft laudanum pearls. Opium tincture dried into tiny beads and coated with gold leaf, stuffed inside sugar plum candies. You pop one before bed, gilded sugar cracking on the tongue. The opium hushes anxieties about duels, debts, or the plague's distant cough. But keep popping and tolerance mounts, upping doses until your remedy becomes your ruination. Sleep, yes. Morning, perhaps not. Slide into a London garret, 1670. You're a typesetter by day, pamphleteer by candlelight, and an insomniac always. The apothecary prescribes a draught of lettuce water, vinegar, and syrup of poppies, chased by Godfrey's cordial, a mild opiate for infants. You chuckle nervously. If it quiets babies, shouldn't it smother your roaring thoughts? You drink. The world slows like an ink spill creeping across paper. Soon, time itself feels drugged. You'll rest, but the next night you'll need more and more. Out of infinity's dark brew rises the first modern addiction crisis. Its herald, a sleepless man who just wanted peace. Across the Atlantic, colonial preachers blame sleeplessness on guilty conscience. You lie awake on stiff horsehair ticking while the minister thunders about sins replaying in your brain at midnight. Cure? Confess publicly during Sunday service. That alone might exhaust you emotionally enough to collapse into dreamless repentance. If not, he suggests a pillow stuffed with hop flowers, bitterness to counter sin's sweetness. You breathe the ale-smelling fluff. It reminds you of taverns, laughter, simpler days. Maybe, just maybe, you drift. Now, steel yourself. Some cures were grotesque. In early modern Germany, pharmacists sold human skull moss, Lycopodium lichen scraped from graveyard bones, steeped in wine. Folklore said the restless spirits trapped in moss would lure your own spirit into sleep. You sip, shuddering at mineral grit between teeth. It tastes like damp cellar and moral decay. Yet, as shock settles, eyelids sink. You can't fight that weight. Did the moss work, or did revulsion short-circuit your adrenaline? You'll never know. Less macabre but equally odd, 18th century France loved shoemakers' wax candles. Tailors melted rosin, beef tallow, and lavender oil into chunky tapers. Burning one released soothing floral smoke plus a benign carbon monoxide trickle that dulled the brain. You'd nod off while reading Voltaire, only to wake choking when the candle guttered, lungs heavy, dreams stained with smoke dragons. All these centuries echo one theme. Insomnia is an enemy we fought with imagination as much as medicine. The battlefield shifted from humors to demons to nervous systems, but the soldiers remained herbs, minerals, prayers, and sometimes outright poisons. And each failure or fleeting success pushed people further into experimental absurdity. Let's spend a moment inside an Elizabethan townhouse to watch desperation hatch in real time. You're the lady of the house, walled in by social obligations and starched collars. For weeks, shut-eye eludes you. Tonight, your maid enters with a bowl of sleep broth. Warm ale stirred with roasted hedgehog fat, nutmeg, and a pinch of ground coral. The recipe comes from a London physic manual that promises gentle drowsing properties. You sip the savory sweet mush, whispering hopes between spoonfuls. Hedgehog fat coats your tongue like bacon grease. Nutmeg numbs. Coral adds chalky crunch. After half a bowl, your stomach lurches, but warmth spreads outward. You sink into feather pillows, hedgehog still clinging to taste buds. In the morning, you'll decide whether the cure is worse than the curse. Tonight, bliss. The industrial age soon floods bedrooms with new noises, clanking pipes, train whistles, ticking clocks, and brand new patent sedatives. Picture 1840s New York. You're a clerk drowning in ledgers. Pharmacy windows glow with bottles labeled bromide of potassium, 1 teaspoon for slumber. You ignore warnings, double the dose, chase with whiskey. Lights blur, heartbeat slows, and you slump forward onto accounting books. Future doctors will call this accidental overdose. You'll call it blessed relief until aggressive nausea jolts you awake at 3 a.m. So much for progress. But among the chemical hailstorm, some gentler oddities persist. Rural Appalachia keeps the key under the pillow trick. Family lore says place the heaviest iron key you own beneath your head. Its weight drags worldly cares straight through feathers into the floor. The placebo is tactile, cool metal kissing earth and gravity. Strangely effective for kids, less so for adults who worry the key might poke their skulls. Still, the custom crosses oceans, proving again that superstition is a universal comforter. Pause. Listen to your own room right now. The whir of central heat, the faint electrical hum. Centuries ago, silence screamed louder than any diesel engine. Night terrors filled the gaps. That's why monks in Cluny Abbey sang complex matins chants at 2 a.m. Not just devotion, but group lullaby, rhythmic Latin cushioning insomnia for the entire cloister. Imagine robed silhouettes swaying by candlelight, Gregorian harmonies swirling like warm milk around your psyche. Even if you're the lay brother sweeping floors, those resonant notes could lull you back to straw palette dreams. Music therapy, 11th century style. Let's test an auditory cure ourselves right now. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. Again. Notice how lungs slow the mind? Ancient yogis in India taught pranayama centuries before sleep apps rebranded it. They paired it with cinnamon milk and ghee on the tongue, a grounded, heavy warmth dragging consciousness into stillness. Picture yourself on a bamboo mat, oil lamp sputtering as temple cows low outside. The milk film lines your mouth, cinnamon tingles, breath counts melt, eyelids flutter like moth wings, and you vanish into the velvet. Of course, wealthy Victorians couldn't resist wiring even breathing into technology. Inventor Louis Sayre created the Sommo chair, a recliner attached to a foot-pumped bellows funneling chloroform vapors near your face. One servant pumped as you reclined. Within minutes, you collapsed into chemical coma. Problem: too much chloroform and you'd never wake. The Somno chair's patent quietly faded after a few fatal trials. Sometimes progress bites. Yet we can't mock them too hard. Modern over-the-counter sleeping pills still flirt with risks. The difference? Today we have clinical trials and warning labels. They had word of mouth and hope. So when your ancestor boiled lettuce in beer or tucked amethyst under the pillow, they were performing proto-science, observing, trialing, revising in real time. Painfully slow, hilariously messy, occasionally tragic, but edging us closer to EEG machines and cognitive behavioral therapy. Before we let sleep tug us under, quick roll call. Which cure would you dare to try? Lettuce wine? Hop flower pillow? Roasted hedgehog broth? Tell me in the comments. I promise not to judge if you pick skull moss. And hey, if you're still awake, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next descent into historical absurdity. Take one last sensory trip. A 19th century Russian peasant hut. Snow presses against log walls. Grandmother stirs a pot of honey, dill, and vodka. She hands you a steaming mug. Outside, wolves howl. Inside, the drink's heat blooms inside your sternum. She touches your forehead, murmurs a lullaby older than the czars. As syllables float, you feel heavy blankets, the smell of birch smoke, her cracked hands smoothing your hair. You close your eyes. The cure isn't vodka or dill. It's touch, voice, ritual. Across all centuries, maybe that's the common thread. Humans need someone or something to tell us it's safe now. You can let go. And on that thought, I'll dim the lantern. Drift if you can. If not, stay with me, because in our next wander through the night, we'll unbox even stranger potions. Tar-soaked nightcaps, electric insoles buzzing your feet to slumber, and a French physician who believed swallowing live earthworms guaranteed 8 uninterrupted hours. Ready to squirm? Still staring at the ceiling? Then do me a favor. Nudge that like button so softly it won't wake the neighbors. Tick the little subscribe bell so future midnight rambles land straight in your bedside queue. And type in the chat what utterly ridiculous sleep hack you've tried. Warm milk, rain noise, counting X's. Spill it. Your confessions keep this lantern burning while the rest of the world snoozes. Now, hush. Feel the room grow roomy, the dark deepen, because tonight our caravan of cures lurches onward. Through tar-soaked nightcaps, galvanic slippers that tingled toes into torpor, and a Parisian doctor who swore swallowing live earthworms sent even the crankiest insomniac straight to dreamland. We're doubling down on bizarre, so pull the quilt up, but leave a sliver for fresh air. You'll need it. Imagine yourself in late Georgian Edinburgh, 1811. Gaslights flicker along damp wines, and your attic tenement jitters with coal smoke and worry. The city's surgeons have declared that sleeplessness springs from neural excitation. Their remedy: tar hats. Yes, felt nightcaps steeped in warm pine tar until they reek like shipyards. The logic: viscous resin traps rising animal spirits inside the skull, forcing them to settle. You press one onto your scalp. Sticky rivulets seep toward your eyebrows, and every breath tastes like freshly pitched barrels. Disgusting, sure, but the smell conjures seaside memories, gull cries, childhood calm. Within minutes, your shoulders sag, eyelids gooey as the tar itself. You hate that it works. You hate more that you'll reach for it tomorrow. Hop the channel to industrial Paris, 1849. Street lamps gleam on Seine water. Omnibus wheels clatter. Inside a garret laboratory, Dr. Théophile Noiret unveils his proudest invention: les pantoufles galvaniques, slippers wired to a hand-cranked dynamo. Twist the crank and mild current courses through insole copper coils, tickling soles, coaxing circulation, massaging Morpheus forth. You're the skeptical journalist. You slip them on. A faint buzz prickles arches, then calves, thighs, soon a whole body hum like bees in deep grass. The doc dims the lamp. The buzz softens to nothing. Blood seems to flow in warm tides. Your pen slips from fingers. Head nods, once, twice. When you jolt awake, the crank has stopped, and Noiret grins, ledger poised for your glowing testimonial. Electro slippers never conquered the market. Winding the dynamo half the night defeated its purpose. But they sparked imitators. Galvanic finger rings, somnobelts, even a sinister magnetized coffin blanket sold in London bazaars. People wrapped themselves in wires, magnets, polished iron filings, anything to tame the midnight mind. Maybe you've done similar, trading copper bracelets for blue light glasses. Across the Atlantic, 1863. The American Civil War groans on. A Union surgeon, overwhelmed by shell-shocked troops, concocts storm minder pills, pressed valerian, opium, and pulverized oyster shell. He tells soldiers the shells carry the hush of ocean. You're a drummer boy trembling in a field hospital. One tablet, and within heartbeats, the tent canvas seems to flap slower. Canon echoes fade behind surf hush illusions. You sleep, briefly spared nightmares of mortar flashes. In civilian life, the surgeon rebrands the pills as Nightwave tablets, sells millions until laudanum backlash yanks them from shelves. Yet veterans still crumble shell in coffee, chasing phantom surf. Not every cure required chemistry. Enter bedtime geometry, a Quaker-devised ritual from 1790s Pennsylvania. Believers mapped invisible squares in the air, one corner at each slow breath, chanting, "Line to angle, angle to rest, draw the circle round my chest." They claimed geometric order soothed cosmic chaos in the nervous system. Picture yourself tracing shapes above your blanket, hypnotic, childlike. After the 10th square, your mind drifts. Geometry becomes dream topography. While Quakers sketched squares, a remote Irish isle swore by lunar milk. On the first full moon night of every month, villagers set pails in moonlight for exactly 11 minutes, stirred thrice widdershins, then warmed the charged milk with nutmeg. Science says photonic calcium harvest? Nonsense. But those rituals scaffolded bedtime, predictable steps, comforting glow, letting brains disengage. Travel south to Moorish Andalusia, 14th century. Court physicians draft Kitab al-Naum, the Book of Sleep, listing acoustic remedies. Chief among them, the String of Stillness. A single oud string stretched across the patient's chest, plucked once every 30 beats. Resonance vibrates sternum, they wrote, guiding the heart toward harmonious slumber. Try it. Imagine a low note rippling through ribs, each thrum a tide pulling consciousness out to sea. Centuries later, Victorians duplicate the method, patenting the somno-harp belt, gut string fixed between brass shoulder loops. Sadly, factory versions rattled more than resonated, leaving wearers both sleepless and bruised. But the idea, micro-vibrational lullaby, foreshadows modern weighted blankets and white noise gadgets. Ready for worms? Paris, 1882. Dr. Armand Lachaise publishes Sur l'insomnie chronique, insisting chronic wakefulness stems from intestinal lassitude. His cure, ingesting live earthworms, one per sleepless hour, because their unctuous motion allegedly jogs dormant gut nerves, signaling brain to rest. Newspapers gasp, salons joke, yet desperate elites line up. You, a bankrupt baroness, gulp your first worm with champagne. It wriggles, you retch, yet weird satisfaction blooms. If you can stomach this, you can survive anything. Whether placebo, protein surge, or sheer exhaustion from gagging, you actually conk out. In the morning, violent nausea, renewed despair. You never try worms again, but legend slithers onward. Flip to rural Japan, Edo period. Peasants plagued by summer insomnia fill bamboo tubes with cold river pebbles, sealing one end with rice paper, placing the other against the temple. Pebbles act as thermal batteries, sucking heat from blood, while faint rattles echo riverbeds. Scientists now call it conductive cooling. Then it was river spirit medicine. You lie on tatami, bamboo pressing skin. Wind through shutters mimics water over stones. Cooling, rattling, you slip under like in a mountain brook. Chill therapy travels. 1920s Berlin neurologists create the Kältemaske, a copper sleep mask flushable with ice water via rubber tubes. Marketing prints show flapper wives reclining, copper gleam over eyes like Art Deco owls.
Unfortunately, condensation dripped into noses. Patients awoke soaked. Yet the concept anticipates today's gel-cooling eye masks on pharmacy racks.
Let's not ignore olfactory oddities. Medieval apothecaries sold sleep apples, wax-sealed orbs stuffed with clove, saffron, dried rose. Crack the wax, breathe the bouquet. Warm spice swirls sinuses, anxieties loosen. Tudor playwrights swear by them backstage. Fast forward, WW1 trench soldiers fold lavender sachets in letters from home, escaping lice stench for seconds before artillery resumes. Today, we call it aromatherapy. Nothing new under the night sun.
But some scents misfired terribly. Georgian England prized Jimson weed smoke baths. Patients sat enclosed beneath blankets, while attendants funneled datura smoke under. Hallucinogenic alkaloids blurred reality. Some slept, others freaked, seeing fire-eyed hounds, hearing oceans inside skulls. Newspapers label the practice Bedlam's breeze. Authorities ban it, yet underground dens persist for decades, promising sleep so deep, death tiptoes by. Speaking of tiptoeing death, lead makeup killed queens, arsenic tonics felled poets, and countless insomniacs overdosed on chloral hydrate labeled harmless hypnotic. All because humanity couldn't bear a night of unquiet mind. Think about that next time YouTube autoplay lulls you. We live in the best era of sleeplessness management. Plush mattresses, CBTI therapists, decaf coffee, yet we still scroll at 2 a.m. So maybe the secret isn't smarter chemistry. Maybe it's accepting that some nights will be restless, and that's okay. Yet curiosity beckons. We've tarred hats, zapped toes, drunk lunar milk. Surely there's further to fall. And there is. In our next moonlit crawl, we'll sink into bedtime bloodletting, radioactive quilts, and the short-lived fad of silence chambers. Rooms so acoustically dead, people begged to leave after 8 minutes, yet doctors insisted 10 would cure decades of insomnia. Spoiler, it didn't. Still awake? Perfect! Slide your thumb over the like button before it dozes off. Ring that sleepy time subscribe bell so the algorithm tucks you in next time, and confess in the comments, how many sheep have you counted so far tonight? And did any of them bleat help when they tripped? Your midnight musings keep this lantern glowing while everyone else dreams of emails they forgot to send. Okay, hush the room. Let's turn another crackly parchment page in humanity's unofficial book of bedtime blunders. You've tried tar hats, electrified slippers, and lunar milk, yet the clock still hisses. Tonight, we plummet into the deeper end, the red-stained, radium-speckled, and deafeningly silent lengths people gambled for one scrap of shut-eye. Keep the quilt handy. Some cures will chill you worse than sleeplessness ever could. Picture a candlelit chamber in Baroque Vienna, 1702. A fashionable widow reclines as barber surgeon Herr Fink prepares his bedtime phlebotomy. Physicians argue that thick, overheated blood pounds the skull like kettle drums, so draining a few ounces before bed should hush the concert. You sit in a brocade chair, velvet sleeve rolled. Think ties a silk ribbon, nicks a vein, and crimson arcs into a porcelain bowl painted with cherubs. Lightheadedness flutters behind your eyes, knees float, the world tilts, almost pleasant. The barber removes 3 ounces, powders the cut with myrrh, and hands you sugared wine. Stumbling to bed, you collapse in woozy calm. Success? Perhaps. But keep repeating and the body weakens. Some patients slipped from light slumber into the big sleep forever. Yet journals of the time praise nocturnal bloodletting as élégante et rafraîchissante. Humans will put holes in themselves before accepting an all-nighter.
Blood wasn't the only fluid targeted. Enter the era of sweat bath insomnia cures. Russian banyas advertised midnight sessions. Stoke cedar fires until steam scalds. Flog the insomniac with birch branches. Then plunge them into an icy plunge pool. The idea: exhaust the nervous system by shock. Imagine steam burning nostrils, birch welts stinging, heart racing into a rhythmic frenzy. Then icy water knocks breath from lungs. Crawling out, you're so depleted that any wooden bench feels like a feather mattress. Many reported comatose slumber. Others caught pneumonia instead of Z's. One czar's cousin famously sweat bathed nightly until his heart gave out. Yet spas still hawk deep slumber sauna packages, minus the birch bruises.
Now fast forward to 1907 London. Electricity hums through new power lines, and entrepreneurs fuse science with spectacle. Professor Jasper Brooke unveils the Silence Chamber, a vault lined floor to ceiling with felt, cork, and lead panels, promising absolute acoustic annihilation. He charges sleepless elites a guinea an hour to recline on a canvas cot inside. You volunteer. As the brass door seals, the world evaporates. No footfalls, no horse carts, not even your own breath seems audible. At first, delicious hush. Then your heartbeat booms like a drum inside your skull. 30 seconds later, you hear blood slicing your ears, joints creaking, eyelids scraping. The quiet becomes an avalanche of internal noise, every swallow a thunderclap. Most clients yank the panic bell at 6 minutes. You hold until 8, stumble out sweating. But ironically, the overload of sensory deprivation leaves you mentally wrong. That night, you sleep like a stone. Brooke triumphantly cites testimonials, never mentioning 3 patrons who fainted, convinced they'd been entombed alive. Modern labs call it the anechoic room effect, still used for research, though they let volunteers leave whenever they like.
Meanwhile, across the channel, France embraces glow-in-the-dark medicine. 1912, radium radiates allure as miracle element. Dr. Lucien Favre sells couvertures lumineuses, bed quilts quilted with radium-impregnated silk threads. She claims gentle radiation pacifies overactive cerebral cells. Customers adore the emerald twinkle. You buy one, tuck it up to your chin, feel faint warmth of atomic decay. Nights blur into languid haze, but mornings deliver splitting headaches and hair shedding on pillows. Within months, newspapers hail radium quilts as modern marvels. By decade's end, lawsuits soar. Yet until regulations crack down, thousands glow themselves to drowsy bliss, trading years of life for nights of peace. Leaden stories? Literally. If glowing quilts weren't enough, Americans tried uranium glass nightlights, green bulbs whose faint radioactivity flickered like will-o'-the-wisps. Advertised in Ladies' Home Journal as moonbeams in a bottle, they promised dreamless depth by gentle rays. Side effect: mild burns on eyelids after prolonged exposure. Pharmacy clerks began stocking tin eye shields. But shoppers kept buying. The fear of insomnia outshouted fear of radiation they scarcely understood. Not all experiments were lethal. Some were just fiercely uncomfortable. Take the weights and measures bed, patented 1893 by Hartford tailor Amos Lindsley. He believed deep pressure subdued jitters, so he built a wooden frame over his mattress holding adjustable iron bars. Each night he lowered the lattice until 50 kilos pressed upon chest and legs, just shy of crushing, yet immovably grounding. Friends thought him mad, but Lindsley slept 9 hours straight. Word spread. He launched a mail-order kit dubbed the Embrace of Morpheus. Customers miscalculated, dropped bars onto ribs, lawsuits reigned, and by 1896 the post office banned shipping his device. Today we buy weighted blankets, cotton, not cast iron, proving even failures plant seeds. Glance east to Ottoman Constantinople, 17th century. Coffee houses boom, ironically breeding insomnia among poets scribbling till dawn. In response, Sufi mystics promote zikr sleep. They spin, chanting circles by lantern light until bodies collapse mid-chant into ecstatic slumber. You join, twirling, repeating divine names. Dizziness melts thought spirals. When your knees buckle, pillows catch you. The rhythmic vestibular barrage reboots brain circuits, neuroscientists might say. Back then, they simply called it surrender to God's lullaby. Across Asia, glimpses parallel discoveries. In Mughal India, court ladies craft kus screens, reed mats soaked in vetiver root water hung over windows. Hot night winds pass through, cooling rooms with earthy perfume proven to lower heart rate. Doctors note subjects fall asleep 40% faster. Today, we diffuse essential oils. Centuries ago, they built the architecture of aroma. Yet desperation births darkness. In 1934, Los Angeles neurologist Dr. Frederick Mason tests insulin coma therapy for insomnia. He reasons that plunging patients into low blood sugar stupor mimics natural sleep. Under supervision, you receive an insulin injection. Cold sweat beads, vision tunneling, you slip into coma. After 20 minutes, he revives you with glucose. First session, you feel reborn. Fourth session, your brain seizes. You spend 2 nights in actual unconsciousness, teetering on brain damage. Mason abandons trials, but psychiatric wards tinker for years before deeming it barbaric. If needles weren't grim enough, war-scarred 1940s Britain births the drift mask, a gas mask rigged to gently rebreathe partial CO2, emulating the soporific air of snug caves. Sleep physiologist James Hanbury swears by it. Magazines print photos of couples side by side in bed wearing sinister duck-billed masks. Sales spike. Unfortunately, strap leaks lead to CO2 spikes. One scandalous suffocation ends the fad. Still, the seed grows into today's CPAP machines, safer minus the WW2 aesthetics. But let's rewind to gentler strangeness, because not every remedy risked oblivion. Medieval Wales nursed poppy pillow geese. Farmers fed geese opium-laced mash, then plucked breast down once sedated. Feathers, they swore, retained dream essence. You lay on a sack of such down, perhaps placebo, perhaps residual alkaloids. Whatever the mechanism, slumber arrived swifter than with plain goose. Later, physicians realized opiates build tolerance even in birds. Entire flocks died from respiratory depression. Folklore calls them the ghost geese of Gwynedd, said to honk mournfully on sleepless nights. Another mild marvel, the Mexican dream jar. Aztec healers filled clay jars with roasted cacao husk, vanilla, and crushed tajitas petals. Before bed, patients uncorked and inhaled. Aldehydes triggered pleasant neural fuzz. Spanish friars adopted the practice, shipping dream jars to Europe where they morphed into chocolate potpourri. Modern neurologists explore cacao husks' theobromine sedation, science catching folklore's tail once more. While some brewed jars, others played with light. French psychologist Édouard Delacroix's 1898 lanterne hypnagogic projected slow-fading pastel forms onto ceilings via clockwork shutters. Watching colors dissolve entranced users into alpha-wave drift. You wind the brass crank, shapes bloom. Rose, indigo, seafoam, then fade like memories. After 20 minutes, your eyes close, still seeing phantom hues. Delacroix planned public sleep cinemas until a competitor's cheap knockoff caught fire mid-show. Safety shutters now grace every star projector in toddler bedrooms. Echoes of Delacroix dance on nursery ceilings worldwide. Let's enter a darker chamber again, the Whisperman trade. Victorian boarding houses hired down-on-their-luck actors to sit bedside and narrate improvised monotone tales until tenants fell asleep. Payment 1 penny per quarter hour. You're the actor, voice hoarse, recounting endless voyages through fog as the tenant's breathing slows. But monotone storytelling bores storyteller too. You nod off mid-sentence. Tenant awakens furious, demands refund. The industry collapses. Yet the concept resurrects today in apps featuring sleep stories read by celebrities. We reinvent the Whisperman with Bluetooth earbuds. Before we hit modernity, savor one final pre-digital oddity, the cat clock. 1953, Tokyo watchmaker Akiko Watanabe fits tiny metronomes inside plush cat dolls. Tails swing, emitting faint tock-tock. She claims the rhythm mimics feline purring, proven to relax. Children adore them. Adults find the ticking maddening or hypnotic. A decade later, MIT engineers create white noise generators, referencing Watanabe's purr study. The humble cat clock thus paves way for the sound machines humming by millions of beds tonight. Step back. Notice patterns: pressure, heat, cold, scent, rhythm, ritual, risk. We chase serotonin with tar and testicles. Yes, 1920s French clinics injected sheep testicle extract as sleep hormone boosters. Spoiler, infections galore. We chase melatonin with moonlight milk. We chase silence so intense we hear our bones groan. And still, insomnia prowls. Maybe the cure isn't more gadgets or glow, but embracing wakefulness as part of night's tapestry. Ancient Romans had a word, vigilia, for mindful midnight hours they used to stargaze, write, or pray before sinking into second sleep. What if occasional sleeplessness isn't disease, but invitation? Light a candle, scribble thoughts, sip non-radioactive cocoa. And when your body's ready, it will claim its right. Yet, curiosity lingers, and our historical cupboard isn't empty. Still to sample, cannabis-laced holy incense of Ethiopian monks, Antarctic explorers' snow-blind exhaustion trick, and the estranged English duke who trained owls to hoot lullabies. Seriously. If your eyelids remain rebellious, tap continue. If they droop, let them. Either outcome means we've served the night. If the darkness hasn't lulled you yet, go ahead and give the like button a drowsy head nod. Cuddle that subscribe bell so the algorithm keeps delivering midnight stories. And in the comments, confess the sleep remedy you absolutely refuse to try. Tar hats, radium quilts, or maybe tonight's new contenders. Your replies are the embers that keep our campfire alive, while most sane people dream of spreadsheets that balance themselves. Good. Lamp trimmed, quilt adjusted, dreams still at a safe distance. Let's wander deeper into history's twilight maze, past the tarry hats and galvanic slippers, toward cures that smell of incense, hoot like owls, or leave frost freckles on eyelashes. You're still the traveler. I'm just the night watchman with the lantern. Follow close and mind your footing. Some of these cures bite. First stop, the rock-carved monastery of Debre Libanos, Ethiopian highlands, 15th century. Wind scours the plateau. Hyenas laugh somewhere below. Inside the incense-hazy chapel, monks move like shadows, grinding greenish resin with dried cannabis leaves and frankincense pellets. They call the blend Tibeb Salam, wisdom of peace. At Compline, each brother loads a small brass censer, sets it glowing, and lets the medicated fumes pool beneath his cowl. You're an anxious pilgrim offered refuge for the night. The monks invite you to sit on a goatskin mat. Smoke tastes peppery, resinous, eyelids slacken. Soon chants blur into pulse-slow waves, and the rock floor feels softer than down. Centuries later, anthropologists test preserved sensors, trace cannabinoids confirmed. But the real sedative, monks insist, is the ritual rhythm. Grind, light, breathe, chant. Neuroscientists now dub it olfactory entrainment. Back then, it was just grace made visible. Renaissance traders smuggled tales of the sleeping incense to Venice. Apothecaries there concoct fumes of Ethiopica, swapping cannabis for gentler lavender to skirt church suspicion. Did it work? Diaries describe Venetian matrons sniffing violet smoke before siesta, praising slumber like the Nile's gentle flood. Proof that cross-cultural exchange sometimes flows through nostrils first. Leap forward to 1911, the frozen belly of Antarctica. You are Stoker on the Terra Nova expedition, Scott's ill-fated push to the pole. Months of 30-hour daylight have fried circadian clocks. Men toss inside canvas bags, mutter at phantom sled dogs. Medical officer Dr. Edward Atkinson turns to snow-blind exhaustion, a risky tactic. After dinner, volunteers shed goggles and stare out onto the white horizon until retinas scream violet. Photokeratitis sets in, eye sting, tears, blurred shapes. Then Atkinson dims lamps, bandages eyes, and orders immediate bunk. Pain ebbs into narcotic relief. Bodies, reeling from sensory overload, collapse for 12-hour comas. You try at once. Searing glare, tears freezing on lashes, then comforting blackness behind linen wraps. In the morning, you can barely open lids, but brain feels rinsed. Modern doctors brand it madness. Still, some polar researchers admit that brief glycolytic shock naps them like nothing else. We'll file this cure under Do Not Attempt without penguin supervision. The expedition's journals show another trick: blubber bedtime. They'd warm sealskin pouches of melted fat, clutch them to chests, inhaling fish mud vapors that, according to meteorologist George Simpson, sagged eyelids as brandy never could. Maybe the fat smell anchored the subconscious to primal cave fires. Maybe they were just calorically starved. Either way, Insomnia fled yelping across the ice. Back to temperate England, circa 1760, where one eccentric duke wages nightly war against wakefulness with owls.
William Cavendish, 5th Duke of Devonshire, installs perches along his Chatsworth bedroom cornice and trains 5 barn owls to hoot in programmed cadence. Slow triple hoot, 12-second pause, calibrated by metronome. He swears low-frequency hoots vibrate skull bones, lulling the mind. Guests, however, report shrieks, mouse guts on floors, and feathers clogging chamber pots. Servants conspire to muffle birds with velvet hoods. The Duke notices, fires them, and pens on the somniferous virtues of Tito Alba, claiming victory over dreadful Vigilia. Today, ASMR YouTubers whisper into microphones. The Duke had real-time avian ASMR, mice included. Victorian spiritualists later adopt owl hypnosis, playing wax cylinder hoot loops at seances. Journals mention delicious stupor. Skeptics blame carbon monoxide from parlor stoves. Hard to separate plume from placebo. And what of sounds opposite? Total hush? We already locked ourselves in anechoic tombs, but 1925 Berlin acoustician Dr. Marta Vogel believes the key is moving silence. She builds the shush track, a ceiling rail carrying thick felt panels that glide around a sleeper's bed in slow orbits, absorbing stray noises like roaming sponges. It looks like a carousel of giant mittens. You lie beneath, panels circle, sucking footsteps, ticking, distant trams. The hush isn't sudden, it drifts, hypnotic. Test subjects fall asleep in 7 minutes average. Problem: machinery squeaks after months, turning cure into cause. Vogel's investors bail, but her patent seeds today's active noise cancellation algorithms, microphones orbiting sound waves, erasing them in real time. Every pair of ANC headphones bows to the shush track, mittens removed. Now a cure that literally grows on you. Moss mantles of 12th century Norse shepherds. Icelandic sagas mention insomniacs sewing pouches of dried sphagnum moss into nightshirts. Legends claimed moss linked body heat to earth elf dreams. Modern botany notes sphagnum emits sedative phenols when warmed and moist. Shepherds sweating under wool and peat smoke created DIY aromatherapy. Picture yourself inside a turf longhouse, wind keening. You tug on a scratchy tunic padded with moss. A damp peat smell, soft, earthy, rises. Heart rate slows. Outside, aurora shimmers. Inside, eyelids drop. Fast forward. A 1980s Swedish startup markets Nordic Dream Vest, basically moss-scented cotton. It bombs, but niche campers still tuck sphagnum sachets into pillows, chasing Viking Z's. Meanwhile, in bustling Tang Dynasty Chang'an, 8th century, a physician named Sun Fa-Yung champions the gourd of midnight water. He prescribes patients fill a hollow calabash with cool river water, plug it with beeswax, then press the gourd to the sternum while reciting verses about flowing streams. The slight slosh echoes heartbeat, creating biofeedback. Patients reportedly nod off before the first stanza ends. Copycats in Song-era tea houses paint gourds with moon motifs, sell to court ladies. Today's chest-rise breathing apps mimic the same principle, minus beeswax leaks. Let's taste something. The dreamer's truffle of Renaissance Florence. Apothecaries blend nutmeg, honey, ground poppy seed, saffron, and, secretly, trace nightshade. Rolled into bonbons, sold to aristocrats who nibble one while servants burned lavender. Dosage tricky. Half a truffle means languid dreams. Whole one sparks delirium dancing through corridors wearing only ruffs. Medici archives record 4 lawsuits. Recipe survives, stripped of nightshade, reborn as pan forte notturno, still served in sleepy Tuscan villages at winter solstice. Light again, but this time starlight. 1938, Pasadena astronomer Mabel Sheridan builds a rooftop star chamber. Glass ceiling above bed, fitted with rotating blackout shutters synced to telescope. She programs shutters to reveal only dim red dwarfs at first, then gradually more constellations, mimicking dawn in reverse. Astronomical dusk, she calls it. The slowly expanding cosmos purportedly eases mind from claustrophobic thoughts. You recline, blackness pricked by one faint ember. Minutes later, 3. A belt of diamonds. Galaxy spill. By the time Orion strides overhead, you sleep. Her diary notes, "The infinite is an excellent lullaby." NASA engineers later mount rotating star domes on ISS crew bunks for circadian regulation. Sheridan deserves a nod each orbit. A tang of danger next. 1904, New Orleans, the Bayou Swamp Gas Pillow. Street quacks sell cotton bags infused with low-grade ether distilled from rotting cypress knees. Customers place pillow over face, inhale marsh sweet fumes till unconscious. Problem: ether is flammable. A single lamp spark led to spectacular bed fires. City Council bans swamp gas cellars. Folklore songs mock Sleepy Joe and his firefly pillow. But ether's effectiveness births legitimate anesthetic research, eventually giving us inhaled tranquilizers in hospitals, minus the cypress stink. We can't forget diet fads. 1922, Chicago health guru Bernice Chalmers preaches monochrome meals. Consume foods of only one color daily. Monday whites, rice, cauliflower, Tuesday yellows, corn, eggs, etc., to simplify endocrine vibrations. She claims insomnia vanishes by Friday. Followers report drowsiness, likely from nutritional imbalance, but bestseller The Rainbow to Sleep spawns color-themed dinnerware lines. Decades later, psychologists study decision fatigue diets. Chalmers's unscientific monochrome menu inadvertently reduces cognitive load, nudging sleep. Simultaneously, Cairo cafes push blue tea, steeped from butterfly pea flowers turned indigo with lemon juice. Egyptians notice the tea dims lantern light glare through subtle optical afterimages, relaxing retinas. Tourists carry the tea worldwide. Now Instagrammers post neon mugs without knowing they sip a medieval insomnia aid. And what of posture? Ancient Sanskrit texts detail Supta Matsya Kriya, sleeping fish discipline. Lie on back, arms overhead, rock torso gently side to side like a fishtail. The vestibular micromotion soothes inner ear, say yogis. Victorian obstetricians adopt it for restless mothers, rename it cradle rock. Modern sleep coaches tell parents to rock babies. Circle completes. But sometime cures stray beyond physical into downright mystical. 14th century Kabbalists in Toledo inscribe lead amulets reading, "Shaddai shelters my eyelids. Wear on forehead. Angels guard dreams." Unsurprisingly, lead ions leach through skin. Users describe heavy drowsiness and later headaches. Poison disguised as piety. The tradition morphs into safer silk talismans, still sold in Jerusalem's Old City. On to smell again, this time garlic and gunpowder. Balkan haiduks, bandit freedom fighters, slept in mountain caves clutching linen pouches, minced garlic plus a pinch of black powder. Belief: powder's sulfur drives out night demons. Garlic dulls fear reflex. Neuroscience hints at allicin lowering cortisol. Sulfur may be placebic. When artillery veterans settle in towns, they hang sachets over cradles, passing habit through generations, until cotton lavender bags replace the sulfur-reek original. Finally, let's visit the invention that nearly killed Christmas, the poinsettia draft. 1919 chemist Clara Patterson asserts poinsettia leaves release somniferous ether when warmed. She markets hot water bottles stuffed with red leaves. Customers complain of rashes, vomiting. Poinsettias are mildly toxic, but some swear they sleep like a thawing pond. The fad fades after newspapers dub her the silent nightshade lady. Yet botanists later isolate sleep-modulating alkaloids in related euphorbia species. Patterson, misguided, wasn't entirely wrong.
Exhaling yet? We've tasted incense, frostbite, radiation, owl lullabies, and gunpowder pillows, all chasing the elusive switch that flips waking to dream. Looking back, most remedies share two themes: ritual and surrender. Whether chanting over cannabis resin or winding a brass star projector, the act itself tells the mind it's safe to let go. Maybe tonight, instead of doom scrolling until phone slaps face, craft your own ritual. Light a candle no tar can outstink. Trace a square like those Quakers. Sip blue tea, listen for distant hoots, or just breathe, slow and wide, like a river gourd.
But if curiosity still flickers, we haven't run out of pages. The next chapter unseals sleep temples of ancient Egypt, where priests painted eyelids with hematite to shade the dreaming eye, and Soviet cosmonaut sleep boxes lined with rotating magnets to fight orbital insomnia. We'll also meet the 1970s rock star who hired a hypnotist to whisper through bone conduction headphones mounted in his pillow, and why that ended in a lawsuit featuring parrots. Strange roads ahead, friend. Before you drift anywhere near REM, hit that thumbs up with the gentlest tap your drowsy hand can manage. Tuck the subscribe bell in beside your pillow so new stories arrive like discreet room service. And in the comments, confess which offbeat sleep remedy you'd actually try tonight. Would you breath and owl hoots, bake blue tea, rock a shush track carousel? Your answers feed the bedtime beast that is the algorithm, and frankly, they help me choose tomorrow night's strangeness. All right, lamps low. We promised hidden temples, orbiting magnets, and a parrot-powered lawsuit, so pull the blanket a little higher. You're still the wanderer. I'm still guiding by lantern glow. Let's slip through a crack in time and emerge beneath a sky of stars painted on stone. The Nile winds quiet beneath a crescent moon as we approach the dream houses of pharaonic Egypt, circa 1250 BCE. Picture sandstone courtyards hushed except for reed flutes echoing across water. Priests of Imhotep, patron of healers, lead anxious pilgrims to hypnos halls called sleep temples. You're barefoot, scented with myrrh oil, and holding a polished shard of hematite. A priest instructs, mark your eyelids. The mineral's russet powder darkens lashes, blocking stray light. But hematite is iron-rich, slightly cold, pressing cool into skin and blood vessels, lowering eye temperature just enough to ease rapid blinking. Modern ophthalmologists would nod. Cooler lids reduce micro-twitches that signal wakefulness. The priest lays you on a reed mat beside others. Through stone vents, desert breeze sighs. You whisper a question to the god, perhaps a cure for grief. Then surrender to sleep, hoping divine dreams bring answers.
In papyri, these dream oracles are called incubation rituals. Archaeologists once dismissed them as placebo. Then, in 2004, CT scans of temple walls revealed small copper pipes embedded behind chanting niches. The pipes, tuned like organ flutes, vibrated when priests hummed a low note, sending sub-bass pulses through floor mats. Infrasound at 18 Hz is now known to induce dizziness, mild trance, even euphoria. Imagine thousands of pilgrims swaying in that thunder you could feel but barely hear. No wonder they slept and reported visions.
Centuries later, Greek travelers carry incubation back across the Aegean. At Epidaurus, patients sleep near sacred dogs thought to lick ailments away. Saliva, full of anti-inflammatory peptides, perhaps truly eased arthritic joints long enough for restful nights. Even placebo can be merciful.
Leap millennia to 1965 Moscow, where cosmonaut candidate Anatoly Voronin floats in a metal centrifuge, nauseated and sleepless. Soviet doctors fret. Orbital insomnia could jeopardize missions. Enter engineer Lilia Kovalenka with her magneto cradle. It looks like a coffin built from aircraft aluminum, lined with coiled copper and rare earth magnets rotated by silent motors. Voronin slides in. Fields cycle in slow waves, supposedly mimicking the planet's geomagnetic heartbeat, absent in space. He reports tingling limbs, buzzing dreams, and, crucially, 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep in weightless simulations. Western physicists later ridiculed the cradle, citing negligible magnetic flux. Yet declassified memos reveal it wasn't magnetic pull, but subtle vibration. The coils spun small masses, causing a 0.2 Hz oscillation, matching the sway frequency of a human cradle. The Magneto brand was political smoke. Infants rock for comfort. Cosmonauts, it appears, need the same. Today's International Space Station bunks include smart rest straps that pulse gentle tension to replicate rocking, direct descendants of Kovalenko's Cold War ruse. Now for the promised rock star pillow fiasco. London, 1974. Glam guitarist Felix Flick Rowe can't sleep between stadium shows. His solution, hire hypnotist Dr. Marion Quill, who records bespoke affirmations, "You are weightless. Applause is distant thunder," played through bone conduction speakers hidden inside a silk pillow. The signal bypasses eardrums, vibrating skull bones so bandmates remain undisturbed. Rowe sleeps like a tranquilized mink, until Polydor Records sues, claiming overnight playback counts as private performance of unreleased tracks embedded covertly beneath the affirmations for subliminal marketing. Trial testimony includes a parrot from Rowe's flat that inadvertently memorized whispered slogans, shrieking, "Buy the vinyl, darling," in court. The judge dismisses the case, but bone conduction sleep rigs boom in popularity. Modern insomnia gadgets sell the same concept, minus parrots and litigation. Let's open a creaking door onto the Alpine snow dreamers, Swiss shepherds, 14th century. High in Engadine valleys, nights stretch 15 shivering hours. To stave off cabin restlessness, families practice frost breathing. Everyone gathers in a stone hut, clutching bowls of freshly packed snow. They inhale through mouth over the bowl, exhale through nose, cooling nasal passages, then swallow tiny melted sips. Cold triggers trigeminal nerves, dampening cortical activity. The water hydrates. Within minutes, hearts slow. Anecdotes speak of dreams crisp as icicles. Modern freedivers use similar cold face immersion to lower pulse. It appears shepherds discovered mammalian dive reflex in reverse. Bring the dive to cot, not cot to dive. They escalate by sprinkling pine ash onto embers, releasing terpene clouds, another sedative. We see again the pattern, sensory extremes paired with ritual communal timing. Alone, cold breath alarms. Together, it reassures. Across the Atlantic, Choctaw healers in pre-colonial Mississippi deploy an opposite tactic: night sweat. A domed earth lodge, stones heated in a central pit, herbal steam flooding lungs. After sweating rivers, participants dash into river chill, then cocoon in buffalo robes. The abrupt temperature swing drains adrenaline, leaving bodies limp. Anthropologist Ella Deloria notes songs sung during cooldown, monotone hums, modulating between heartbeats. Researchers now link temperature dips to melatonin release. The Choctaw encoded it in ceremony centuries prior. Smell returns in 1890 Paris, where perfumer Lucette Baudet battles her own insomnia by inventing sandal switch candles. Wick stitched with 2 waxes. Outer ring of lavender beeswax burns first. Inner core of cedar and sandalwood ignites after 30 minutes when user should be drowsy. The subtle perfume shift shocks the olfactory bulb, like changing sheets mid-nap, and brain associates second scent with surrender. Baudet's boutique sells out when actress Sarah Bernhardt endorses them. Fire marshals object to sleepers with lit candles. Baudet designs an auto-dousing copper dish that floods flame once core finishes. Contemporary aromatherapy diffusers emulate this timed scent transition digitally. Chocolate to vanilla, bergamot to neroli. Our noses still crave narrative. Next, the clock garden of Kyoto, devised by monk botanist Isshin in 1707. He plants rows of evening primroses timed to unfurl petals at precise dusk intervals. Some at sunset plus 10 minutes, others 20, 30. Pilgrims lie on tatami between rows, watching blooms open in sequence like slow fireworks, each emitting faint sweet acids. The visual countdown distracts restless minds. By the final row, many pilgrims doze. Modern light therapy clinics borrowed the concept with dimming LEDs, but flowers did it first with circadian bravado. Isshin journals note a final flourish. Crickets in bamboo cages, relocated nightly down the rows so chirps also cascade. Dual sense hypnosis. Neuroaesthetics researchers refer to progressive sensory gating. Tell the brain a story with sights and sounds that gradually simplify to silence. Perhaps your bedtime playlist could fade track by track, like petals closing. We promised nutshell notes of medieval lovers earlier. Insomnia intersects in 1423 Avignon. Apothecary Jean de Maracquois sells insomniac wives secret slumber shells. She hollows walnut halves, inserts love notes infused with crushed valerian and damiana, then seals them with sugar wax. Women crack shells beneath pillows, smell herbal hit, read husband's sweet vow, heart glows, body relaxes. Half placebo, half phytochemical. Letters recovered behind monastery walls show browned petals, smudged ink, still fragrant centuries on. Romance as sedative. Hallmark never stood a chance. Light again, this time mechanical dawn. 1828, Bavarian tinkerer Otto Unger crafts sun clock beds. A gear-driven shutter system opens skylight slats over 4 hours each night, simulating moonset into sunrise, then closes again if sleeper remains upright after dawn. Unger's poor math yields pre-dawn rain showers onto mattresses. Still, concept births the first dawn simulator alarm clocks. Companies today charge hundreds to do what Otto attempted with pulleys and hope. Not to be outdone, 1830s Boston sees physician Phoebe Stillwell patent negative candle. Black paraffin laced with trace lithium burns clear flame, but releases invisible lithium vapor, mood stabilizer, around rooms. Users describe gentle sedation, however, dosage inconsistent, leading to mania outbreaks. Patent revoked. Yet, lithium-infused mineral water becomes trendy. Eventually, real psychiatry harnesses it safely. We wander now to the 1956 Kenyan highlands, meeting Maasai warriors who prepare for Lion Guard nights with milk dreams. They warm calabashes of fermented cow's milk mixed with crushed night-fragrant tubers containing trace tryptophan. After drinking, they sing low harmonics matching cattle rumble so herd stays calm. The combo of amino acids and vocal vibration lulls both beasts and men. Ethnomusicologists measuring sleep EEGs in 2012 confirm deeper slow-wave cycles among singers versus silent guards. Moral: sometimes lullabies are for the shepherd, not the sheep. Onward to the underground bunkers of 1942 London. During Blitz blackouts, civil defense nurse Ruth Garvey improvises the tin whisper. She distributes small tin cups with lids, instructs anxious families to write their fears on scrap paper, drop them in, close lid, then tip ear to cup and listen for echoes. Tin's resonance warps faint tube station rumbles into seashell hush. Children swear they hear their worries being sucked away. Psychologists now call this externalized rumination. Journals note improved sleep inertia. The war ends, tin whispers become party tricks, but cognitive behavioral therapists resurrect the idea with worry jars on bedside tables. Same trick, prettier ceramics. Finally, as promised, the parrot coda. After Felix Roe's pillow fiasco, bird owner Daphne Reeve trains her African Grey, Pim, to recite guided meditations. She sells vinyl titled "Polly Wants You Asleep." Listeners lie in dark while Pim instructs, close eyes, flap worries away, cracker later. Some reviewers claim laughter ruined drowsiness. Others find the bird's slow rasp irresistible. Sales tank, but one track resurfaces in 2019 TikTok trends. Gen Z loops Pim's "breathe, breathe" and ironically reports best sleep in years. Proof that absurdity sometimes disarms insomnia more than gravity blankets ever could. Take a long breath. We've crossed deserts with hematite eyelids, spun in magnetic cradles, tasted lithium candles, followed flowers blooming to blackness, and heard parrots lull rock stars. What thread ties them? Each remedy builds a bridge between waking chaos and surrender, whether with smoke, sound, cold, vibration, or plain narrative. The science may wobble, but the ritual is steel. Maybe choose one tonight. Write a fear, drop it in a mug, brew blue tea, cue owl hoot audio, line window with slowly opening blinds. Or craft your own experimental cure. Tape 2 cents into a candle, set flowers beside clock radio, teach dog to hum in B-flat. If nothing else, you'll gain a story to tell the comments section, fuel for our next midnight expedition. Yet we're not finished. Beyond this page waits parting wisdom from desert mystics who tied knots in cords to count breaths. Victorian railway cars that rocked insomniacs between stations all night, then returned them home. And a Swiss watchmaker who built a ticking suit to wear in bed, heart entrained by clockwork.
Still more. Marsupial pouches for preemies, digital lullaby viruses, and the Antarctic submarine that played whale songs backwards to put sailors out. Quick housekeeping before we dim the lantern. If you're still awake enough to hear me, slide your cursor over that like button, press subscribe so the algorithm tucks these nocturnal rambles right next to your favorite lo-fi playlists, and once you finish, drop a comment confessing which of tonight's experiments you're most tempted to try. Would you braid breath-counting knots, ride a railway nowhere, or stitch a metronome into your pajamas? Your answers are the coal that keeps this midnight train moving.
All right, blankets up, screens low, mind open. You're still the traveler, and I'm still the quietly talkative guide. Let the corridor behind us seal. Ahead, another series of half-lit chambers where sleep, superstition, and creative desperation tangle like ivy.
Our feet crunch over sun-bleached gravel in the Sinai Peninsula, 12th century CE, where Coptic hermits have beaten even insomnia into stone submission. Each monk carries a cord of remembrance, a flax rope as long as his forearm, knotted at measured spans. An elder hands you one, rough as desert bark, and explains the ritual. Inhale while fingering the first knot, exhale on the second, count to 8 knots, then reverse. When mind wanders, the cord tugs you back. Meditation with tactile cue.
But here's the twist, lost in most tourist pamphlets. The knots aren't equidistant. They tighten and loosen according to the tempo of the monk's resting heartbeat, his personal metronome. New initiates spend sunset copying their pulse onto rope. Press thumb to artery, count beats, tie knot when breath and heart briefly sync. Tonight you do the same. A crescent moon witnesses as each knot cinches your pulse into twine. Scholars now theorize that variable spacing prevents the brain from slipping into numerical rote. Unpredictability keeps the prefrontal cortex mildly alert, yet soothed, like jazz for nerve endings. MRI studies on modern prayer ropes show reduced beta waves after just 10 minutes. Medieval mystics hacked biofeedback 800 years before Fitbits. Inside a sandstone cell, smelling of olive oil and dust, a monk demonstrates the final step. Hang the cord from a ceiling peg so the breeze swings it above your face. You lie on woven reed mat. The moving shadow crosses eyelids in slow-motion arcs, cueing the optokinetic reflex. Your eyes track the motion until muscles fatigue and lids droop. You're out before the shadow reaches the far wall. Blink and the world rewinds to fog-drenched Victorian London, 1882. Industrialists have monetized sleeplessness. Why fight it when you can sell tickets? Enter Sir Archibald Klein's Night Loop Railway. 2 refurbished Pullman cars, gas-lit and velvet-lined, depart Paddington at 11 p.m., circle a 30-mile private track, and return fractionally before dawn. Perfect for insomniacs craving lull of wheels without leaving town. You board with a clutch of aristocrats in embroidered nightcaps. No conductor yells. Instead, string quartet plays adagios until the first tunnel where they fade. Windows shutter automatically, blocking stray lamplight. The rails themselves are engineered to a gentle 7-second oscillation. Klein had mathematicians design curves so centrifugal sway mirrors a cradle's arc. Passengers recline on couch berth hybrids. Warm rubber bladders under cushions inflate and deflate like breathing, a proto-air mattress calibrated by steam valves. Critics scoff until physician Letitia Marr publishes a study in The Lancet confirming passengers achieve deeper slow-wave sleep than in stationary beds. She posits somatic entrainment,
Body aligns with rhythmic vibration. Think rocking chair but wearing gloves of momentum. The service thrives until electricity powers quieter trams and war requisitions tracks. Yet you can trace today's airport sleep pods and white noise train apps straight to that nocturnal loop of coal and velvet. Soot gives way to ticking gears in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland, 1911. Watchmaker Emile Vogt battles personal insomnia from relentless tick-tock echoing in workshop. His reply is insane brilliance. He builds the Sweet Horloge, a linen jumpsuit seated with 437 miniature watch escapements set to subtle phase differences. When worn, the suit produces a diffuse field of micro-ticks, impossible to localize, like rainfall on tin roofs. Vogt notes that instead of aggravation, the mind surrenders. Trying to locate each tick is futile, so consciousness shuts down. You slip into a replica. Pin-sized brass gears whisper at collarbone, hip, ankle. A technician tightens straps. The clocks never touch skin. Oil would gum gears. Yet their vibrations sneak through fabric. Within minutes, your inner monologue slows, its edges rounded by stippled rhythm. Neurologists later dub this overload masking. Bombard auditory cortex with non-directional stimuli until it deprioritizes external input. ASMR enthusiasts mimic it with layered tapping. Sadly, Vogt's patent fails. Consumers deem it wearable insanity. He dies unknown, but the principle resurfaces in 2014 as high-density vibrohaptic blankets for autistic children. Sometimes genius must hibernate a century. Now a sudden latitude jump. Sydney, 1997. Neon harbor lights flicker as neonatal nurse Maya O'Connell addresses preemie insomnia in NICU. Observing kangaroo Joey snooze in mother's pouch, heartbeat drumming at 120 BPM, she sews marsupial sleep sacs with pliable gel speakers that mimic that rapid beat coupled with faint digestive gurgles. Preemies wired with EEG leads slip into lengthier REM bursts correlate with weight gain. Regulators debate ethics of exposing infants to constant bass. Trials expand. By 2006, SACs win pediatric awards. What few know, engineers borrow the concept for adult anxiety therapy. Weighted vests that pulse users' sternum at 60 BPM, tricking interoception into believing another calm body is near. You don one in a dim lab. The pulsing feels uncanny yet comforting, like leaning against a giant cat. 10 minutes later, jaw slackens. Is it placebo, tactile oxytocin trigger, or ancient memory of womb acoustics? Neuroscientists shrug while venture capital swoons. One thing is sure, somewhere desert monks smile. Heartbeat rhythm came full circle from knots to gel packs. Deep breath. Time to get weird. Seoul, 2028, just around the temporal bend. Hackers release a lullaby virus. It doesn't steal data. It hijacks smart speakers at 2 a.m., playing a wordless 42 Hz hum layered with snippets of lullabies in rotating languages. Victims describe overwhelming sleepiness. Some collapse on keyboards. Cybersecurity firms scramble, but mental health advocates secretly applaud. Insomnia forums light up with people begging to keep the friendly ghost. Authorities patch devices. Pirates spawn copycat streams. Spotify quietly launches Sub-Delta drone playlist, legal version of the hack. Digital Sandman, born from malware. Ethicists coil. Weaponized comfort disturbs autonomy. You test a sample file. The deep hum vibrates tooth roots.
Chest resonates, skull seems to expand. A familiar infrasound akin to Imhotep's pipes. You stop after 3 minutes, pulse syrup slow. Would you volunteer for a full hour? That comment section wants to know. Darkness thickens. Let's dive, literally, to the Ross Sea, 1973, aboard submarine Argo 4. Crew struggles with 6-hour watches under polar night. Navy psychologist Dr. Hernan Silva tries playback of whale songs, but finds them overstimulating. So he reverses the audio. Slowed humpback moans become low, trudging drones. Played through hull transducers, the vibrations fuse with engine throb. Sailors nickname it Ghost Beard, and bunk log data shows 32% reduction in sleep onset latency. Silva's logbook reveals he accidentally hit reverse switch while delirious. Serendipity birthed the cure. Modern sleep researchers replicate reversed biosounds, slowed bird dawn choruses, inverted rainfall, finding they mask environmental unpredictability while retaining organic contour. You rest ear against desk. Imagine entire ocean humming lullaby backwards, eons cradling you. Argo 4 surfaces with calmer crew and story leaks. New Age wellness tapes of Backward Earth flourish, peaking when David Bowie samples one for 1977's Low. History hides lullabies in plain sight. We still owe you the Clock Garden sequel, Tokyo Robotics Lab 2046. Engineers grow genetically modified orchids that blink bioluminescent petals sequentially through night-like breathing lamps, Cyber Ishin Reborn. Installation opens as Insomnia Clinic. You purchase ticket, wander luminous labyrinth, eyes guided through pre-programmed hypnagogic path. Trials indicate 70% participants doze mid-walk. Staff catch and cocoon them in rolling hammocks. The orchids perfume air with linalool, double punch. Patterns emerge. Rock, hum, breathe, sway, overload, release. Insomnia hates novelty only until novelty becomes rhythm. Then it surrenders. Which ritual will you steal? Desert knots? Railway sway? Tick suit hush? Maybe you'll code a legal lullaby virus, broadcasting to consenting smartphones at midnight. Hold that thought, because our final episode still waits behind a creaking door. An Andalusian alchemist who distilled moon milk. A Norwegian glassblower who forged dream-colored panes. And that medieval Italian town where citizens hired professional sleepers to absorb nightmares. Before we twist the cork on the very last vial in our cabinet of midnight curiosities, take 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds, to make sure the tiny gray subscribe button below is no longer gray, but that satisfying shade of clicked. It's the easiest ritual on tonight's agenda. It costs no lavender, no railway ticket, no reversed whale song, and it keeps these weekly sleep expeditions populating your feed right when you need them. Drop a comment telling me which earlier remedy you suspect would actually work on you and which would keep you up in terror. Your stories feed new episodes the way moonlight feeds glowworms, so thank you in advance. All right, lids half closed, kettle barely steaming, we return to our lantern-lit corridor and open the last 3 doors. The Alchemist's Dairy, the Norwegian Dreamglass Atelier, and the Italian town that outsourced nightmares like civic garbage collection. Follow the scent of warmed honey and crushed cardamom. It's time for the encore. Wind your internal compass due south to Andalusia, Circa 1483, a generation before Columbus sails, when Granada's streets still echo with Arabic, Hebrew, and Old Castilian in tangled harmony. In a lilac-shaded courtyard lives Yusuf ibn Basal, a minor court physician famous for one shimmering concoction, leche de luna, moon milk. Recipe fragments survive in the Kitab al-Layl, copied by candlelight and spattered with irregular white rings, dried drips of the stuff itself. The base is sheep's milk simmered with crushed poppy seed, quince peel, and a perilous dusting of blue vitriol, copper sulfate crystals scraped from vineyard barrels. Yusuf believed copper cooled the hot blood, an echo of Galenic humors. Toxic? Undeniably. But dosage was everything. 1 grain too many, you vomited starlight. 1 grain precise, muscles slackened like silk ropes. The magic, though, wasn't chemical alone. Preparation began exactly at nautical dusk, when horizon blends sea and sky, and ended before the moon's first full rise above the Alhambra ramparts. Apprentices beat the milk with whisks strung from raven feathers, believed to trap intrusive spirits, while Yusuf chanted verses from the Surah al-Layl under his breath. Finally, they decanted the opulent brew into crystal ampoules and submerged them in a fountain so moonlight refracted through ripples onto the liquid surface. That silver film? Modern spectroscopy would identify microscopic lactose crystals aligned by temperature drop, scattering light like frost. To insomniac nobles, it looked like the drink had swallowed a star. You, guest of the court, are offered a thimbleful. The taste surprises. Hint of sour quince, mineral edge, floral afterwhisper. Within minutes, jaw muscles unhinge in a lazy yawn, and the torches blur. Court records claim patients experienced calm visioning, a liminal state, half dream, half waking prayer, where anxieties dissolved into luminous calligraphy. Not unlike the hypnagogic lights some modern meditators see behind closed eyelids. Why did it fade from medical canon? Copper sulfate finally made the 1572 Index of Prohibited Substances after rash deaths among self-medicating merchants. But the ritual memory lingered. Fast forward to 2020's wellness blogs. Influencers revive moon milk minus the poison, swapping copper for turmeric, ginger, ashwagandha. They photograph mugs under ring lights, chase Yusuf's aesthetic while missing his precision. Yet even placebo sips can cue the parasympathetic nervous system. The true alchemy was always expectation. Imagine reviving the full rite, heating milk on an outdoor stove, timing breath to phases, letting moonlight flicker across the surface until your pulse mirrors lunar rise. You could recreate this on a balcony tonight, no copper needed, just intention and time. Slide a continent north and 3 centuries ahead to Gudvang in Norway, 1759. Fjord winds shriek outside a boathouse turned glass studio. Inside, master glassblower Asa Nygaard pursues a single obsession: trapping aurora borealis hues in window panes to lull townsfolk through interminable polar nights. She discovers adding traces of holmium oxide, rare earth soon coveted for lasers, and ground reindeer lichen ash into molten silica creates panes that, by day, appear mundane sea green, but under candlelight shift into slow-moving ribbons of teal and rose, the northern lights distilled. Villagers install these drømmeskjerm dream screens in bedroom shutters,
When lamps dim, wavering colors echo outside auroras even on cloudy nights, synchronizing circadian rhythms to imagined dawns. The effect? A primitive chromotherapy. Low-frequency teal light reduces cortisol. Rosy edges nudge melatonin. Centuries later, Philips markets sunrise simulating bulbs. Assa's pains did it with oxide and artistry.
Legend says she placed secret runic etchings along the lead cames, sigils to trap Mar, the Norse nightmare goblin riding sleepers' chests. Runologists confirm tiny symbols for turn, bind, ease, each under a different colored ribbon. Homeowners swore nightmares slid off glass like mist. Cognitive scientists today might cite pattern interruption. Eyes track gentle color drift, mind's threat detection eases, REM sleep stabilizes. But Oz's patrons just slept.
You lean against one replica pane suspended in a museum darkroom. Candle behind it paints the wall with drifting aurora. Threads of light prance across your retina until sigh escapes unbidden. Perhaps color, more than sound, holds the universal lullaby. Oz's archive ends during a brutal winter when an avalanche wipes half the village. Surviving panes scatter, some rumored aboard emigrant ships to Minnesota, where Nordic settlers claimed children slept better than their Chicago cousins. The Drummerscherm might still hang in a forgotten attic, quietly painting auroras across moth-eaten quilts. Final Door, Feronia, Italy, 1634. A hilltop town that appears in just 2 tax ledgers and 1 parish scandal, but nowhere else. Here, chronic night terrors plagued citizens after a drought and plague year. Local physician Father Domenico Ciusti proposed a civic inversion: hire professional sleepers to absorb the town's nightmares. Every dusk bell, 8 volunteers, often the recently bereaved or debt-ridden, gathered in the communal hall. They donned wool rasks dipped in lavender-spiked vinegar, believed to filter miasma, and lay on hay pallets arranged like spokes of a wheel, feet inward toward a brazier of rosemary coals. Townspeople queued outside, spoke their fears, failed harvest, demon infants, Turkish pirates, into hollow ceramic spheres called vasi de sospiri, jars of sighs. Each jar then sealed with beeswax and placed beside a sleeper's head. The theory: dreams are vapors. Clay captures them. The paid sleeper, breathing near jar and fire heat, would inhale the fear, dream it, thereby exhausting its power. Payment: a loaf of rye, 2 figs, and exemption from tithe. Giusti kept meticulous diaries. He recorded which sleeper absorbed which jar, then tallied nightmares reported by donors over weeks. Astonishingly, complaints declined. Modern psychologists reading the diary suspect cathartic confession plus externalization. People offloaded worries, then placebo effect did the rest. But the sleepers themselves? Many suffered vivid terrors. Some awoke screaming. A few developed trance states. In 1636, a sleeper named Elisabetta collapsed, clutching multiple jars. When they shattered, wax seals popped and scented steam curled upward. Panic spread, practice banned. Yet the method survives in bastardized forms. Worry dolls in Guatemala, anxiety journals under pillows, therapy sessions where fears are spoken, then left in the room. Every time you comment your stress online, you join those Italian queues, handing jars to strangers. Picture reviving the ritual with modern safeguards, group therapy with weighted blankets, essential oils, designated dream catchers rotating weekly so burden diffuses. Silicon Valley might brand it sorrow pooling, market an app matching sleepless pairs to swap worry audio files overnight. We laugh, but you sense entrepreneurial cogs spinning. Thread these three tales: moon milk, aurora glass, nightmare brokers, and a single filament glows. Sleep is a communal technology. We imagine it private, eyelids closed. But across eras, people outsource tranquility to brewers, artisans, or sacrificial sleepers. Even our solo rituals, white noise earbuds, blue light filters, are products of countless strangers' experiments. You, insomniac friend, are part of that lineage. Tonight, you might test a copper-free moon milk, warm oat beverage, honey, grated nutmeg, whisked while moonbeam through window kisses the surface. Or craft a mini drumscherm by taping colored cellophane layers over bedside lamp, watching hues blend until thoughts blur. Or scribble fears on sticky notes, fold them into a jar, seal with wax, or duct tape, let's be honest, and place at the foot of your bed. Tell yourself someone else on the internet is shouldering them till dawn. Will it work? Maybe, but the act of trying, of staging a micro-ceremony, already shifts attention from dread to curiosity, precisely the crevice where sleep slips in. Neuroscientists call this paradoxical intention. When you stop chasing sleep and instead perform a ritual, anxiety circuit quiets, homeostatic drive wins. Before we extinguish the lamp, indulge one more whisper. All 7 episodes you've traveled, the desert knots, the railway loop, the tick suit, the marsupial vests, the lullaby virus, the reversed whale drones, and tonight's trio form a secret instruction manual. Their first letters spell K-N-O-T-S. Okay, maybe not. I'm no Da Vinci. But they do teach the same lesson. Rhythm plus safety plus imagination equals surrender. So, final call to action. Engagement gods demand it. Bookmark this playlist for the next restless night. Share it with that friend who texts you at 2 a.m. out of sheer buzzing brain. And tell me in comments which historical cure you'll resurrect or remix. I read them all while steeping my own lunar beverage. The lantern sputters, wick a breath from dark. May your dreams tonight shimmer like Andalusian quartz, drift like Norwegian auroras. And if nightmares knock, may some professional sleeper halfway across the world crack open a jar and take them on your behalf. Good night, traveler. Let the corridor close gently behind you, and may you wake only when dawn itself begs entrance.